Part 68. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 673. Don't worry, I know that you are very fond of food, so I have prepared this large table of dishes for you. As for the rest, I will never owe you anything. There was a bit of helplessness on Chen Feng's face. It was obvious that these foods were more important than anything else in front of Ganjiang. It was only by chance that he discovered this man's obsession with food. It didn't take long for him to discover that Ganjiang was fast. The food began to pile up on the table. In just 10 minutes, someone ate all the food, which was simply unacceptable. It would be difficult for any big man to do that, to be able to eat so much food. The food was eaten, but many people did not want their ugly side to be seen by others, so Chen Feng did not call anyone more, but only called Ganjiang. Chen Feng said with a smile, "You should know that this meal is not free, and what I want you to do next is also very important." When the go-getter heard this, he said directly, "Sir, if you need me to do anything, just tell me." A go-getter is a no-nonsense person. When Chen Feng heard this, he smiled and said, "Don't worry, it's not a very difficult thing to do. I just want you to help me monitor the Wang family. If there is any big move in their family, you can just report it. As for there is no need for other trivial matters. You can also make your own decisions on small matters." When Ganjiang heard this, he understood that Chen Feng wanted him to be his eyes, but even his life was picked up by this person, so it was normal for him to be his eyes. It didn't take long for him to listen. The person on the side said directly, "Sir, please don't worry, I will not let you down." Chen Feng said with a smile, "In this case, you can retreat first. If this matter can be handled well, then your army will become my real private army in the future. The 1,000 people under Ganjiang are all elites. It is also very good to be able to become more powerful people." Not long after, I heard Ganjiang say directly, "Thank you, Holy Emperor, for giving me this important task. My subordinates will definitely be messed up and will never do anything. Don't betray." He has never thought about betrayal from the beginning, but the heart of the superior is always wavering, so he must give this guarantee. And his heart has been destined from the beginning to always be loyal to Chen Feng. Regarding the performance of the general, Chen Feng understood that this person had already been very loyal, but if he was given too many sweet things, he might not be able to forget the bitterness and sweetness. Although he and the man from Zaixing Tower cooperated, but he still does not intend to use too much money. Tuochen and Xiangyang City both have a lot of money. If he does this easily, it will definitely be compared. You go down first. It's likely that the Wang family will be in trouble next time. It depends on the performance of your people. I hope they won't disappoint me." There was a smile on Chen Feng's face. If a sword cannot play a corresponding role, it proves that the sword is useless and can only be given up. No matter how beautiful it is or what it is used for. How precious! It was just an embroidered pillow and flower stand. Ganjiang walked down slowly. Chen Feng looked at the street not far away. Since he came back, Xiangyang City seemed to be more lively and not as cold as before. "Leave this world with me." One update. After the battle outside Zuxian town, the kingdom of Jin no longer threatened the Song dynasty, and Han Shizhong, who had fulfilled his wish, also submitted his resignation to the court and prepared to resign and live in seclusion. As for Yufei, he was also preparing to take his family to a remote place to live in seclusion. However, when he was about to leave, there were 9,000 soldiers of the Yu family army who wanted to follow Yufei forever and live in seclusion with him. For these people, especially Su Qing, Yang Zaixing and other generals who were highly skilled in martial arts and capable of leading troops, Yufei wanted to persuade them to stay in the court and continue to serve the Song dynasty, but when the words came to his lips, he thought of his own experience again, and after all, he still couldn't say it. After all, leading marshals like himself and Han Shizhong have resigned and returned home. How can these generals and soldiers have any obligation to stay? Moreover, he has devoted his life to the country, but in the end he almost died unjustly. It is inevitable for these generals and soldiers to stay. The rabbit died and the fox was sad. At this time, Lu Feng came over and said to Yu Fei, who was extremely conflicted, Marshal Yu, these people want to follow you, which shows that Marshal Yu, you do care about the soldiers, so they are willing to give up their glory and wealth to follow you. In this case, why should you refuse people thousands of miles away and let the soldiers collapse with their enthusiasm? Just let them follow you. Buta euro a euro. After listening to Lu Feng's words, Yu Fei immediately hesitated. After all, 9,000 people was not a small number, and the Yu family army itself had relatively strong combat effectiveness. If his family lived in seclusion, Song Jiaozong might not feel that it posed a threat to him and would not pursue him. But once these 9,000 troops are available, it will become a powerful force that will make Song Jiaozong feel on pins and needles. As long as he is still in the Song dynasty, even if he escapes to Ryukyu, Japanese island, and other places far away from the central plains, Song Jiaozong will still send people chase him. Once that time comes, it will be a trivial matter for him to be the enemy of the Song dynasty. The most important thing is that the imperial court will definitely regard his troops as a serious threat, and will definitely send troops several times his own to encircle and suppress them. This will only harm these soldiers' life. Lu Feng naturally knew his difficulty, and the reason why he asked this was just to test Yu Fei's attitude. Seeing his expression at this time, Lu Feng knew that although Yu Fei also knew that it would be difficult to let these people follow him, he was really reluctant to separate from them and let them find their own way out. So Lu Feng also smiled and said, at the moment, Marshal Yu, Marshal Han, although you too want to live in seclusion and hide from the world, you must also know in your hearts that you can't really ignore worldly affairs and treat the Song dynasty indifferent. Lu Feng's words were like a heavy hammer, hitting the hearts of Yu Fei and Han Shizhong. Although they said on the surface that they were completely disillusioned with the Song dynasty, how could they really not care about the motherland they had fought for all their lives and the people of the Song dynasty who were still in dire straits? It's just that they were unwilling to admit it, and now that Lu Feng had revealed it, both of them fell silent. Seeing that both of them were silent, Lu Feng obviously agreed with his idea, so he smiled and said, two marshals, in this case, why don't you follow me and leave this world? After hearing Lu Feng's words, Yu Fei and Han Shizhong were filled with excitement. Face confused. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download the Philu Novel app. A. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 674. Even Yu Yun, mother-in-law, Zhang Xian and other generals of the Yu family army looked at Lu Feng with puzzled faces, not knowing what he was talking about. Finally they looked at each other, and Yu Fei asked, what does it mean to leave this world? Lu Feng couldn't help but smile slightly when he heard Yu Fei's question, and said to Yu Fei, Yuanba just told me, on the way back, he called me Your Majesty and asked me to explain when he comes back. Now, it's time to introduce me properly. I am actually the Emperor of the Shenlong Empire. After hearing Lu Feng's answer, Yu Fei frowned and asked, the Shenlong Empire, why have you never heard of it? Do you, General Lu, want to rebel just like Yang Yao? Lu Feng saw that Yu Fei had some misunderstandings, so he quickly shook his head and said, my Shenlong Empire is not actually in this world, so tell me, I actually came from the late Eastern Han Dynasty and the Three Kingdoms period that you now know. However, because of my appearance, I changed the history as you know it. I killed Dong Zhou in advance, and Dong Zhou killed the Han Dynasty before he died. Emperor Xian, and I am actually a clan member of the Han Dynasty after Lu Sheng, King Jing of Zhongshan. After the death of Emperor Xian of the Han Dynasty, the Han Dynasty was destroyed, and I established the Dragon Kingdom. During this period, 8 kingdoms including Cao, Liu Bei, Sun Ce, and Yuan Shao stood side by side. Finally, after several years of fighting, I the world that unified that world. Now, I have obtained a space gate that can travel through various worlds at will, so I can travel through each world. Now, the purpose of the Shenlong Empire is to make our descendants of the dragon become all the master of the world. I have achieved this goal twice. In the world, the Dragon Kingdom has long dominated the world. Nearby empires such as Wo Island and Goguryeo, as well as distant empires such as Rome and Persia, have long been ruled by all ministers. Now we are gathering warriors from all worlds to join me in conquering the world, so that the descendants of dragons in all worlds will not be invaded and oppressed by all foreign races. Yu Fei, Han Shizhong, and others were all shocked after hearing the explanation. The descendants of the dragon, that is, all Han people, become the masters of each world and will never be invaded and oppressed by foreigners. What a noble ideal this is! Of course, in comparison, the thousands of worlds Lu Feng just mentioned have obviously far exceeded everyone's understanding. They have lived in the Song dynasty all their lives, and some people have even never heard of Persia and other countries outside the Song dynasty. Pass. Now, Lu Feng has directly raised their knowledge to a whole new level. In comparison, Yu Fei was a bit better. After all, Lu Feng knew everything about him like a god, and even gave him a magic pill that could bring the dead back to life. This already made him feel that Lu Feng was like a god. After listening to Lu Feng's words, the mother-in-law's eyes gleamed. After all, she had always hoped that Yu Fei could serve the country loyally. In fact, she just wanted him to do more for the people of the world so that they would not have to suffer so much pain. In contrast, his eyes only saw the world in front of him, but he didn't know that Lu Feng had already set his sights on thousands of worlds further away. As for Yu Yun, Zhang Xian, and others, they didn't think too much. Just listening to Lu Feng's words made their blood boil. Such a grand goal should be what military generals like them should strive for. No matter how much they pay, it is worth it. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 675. Both Yu Fei and Han Shizhong were willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of national justice. Faced with Lu Feng's lofty ideals, their eyes shone brightly, not to mention their mother-in-law. Crazy. What are you waiting for? With such a wise king alive, isn't it the time for you to serve your country loyally? My mother-in-law was the first to kneel down in excitement and scolded Yu Fei not to be stunned and to quickly defect to the new master. A good bird chooses a tree to roost in. Your Majesty is a powerful one. I, Yu Fei, am willing to go through fire and water for your Majesty's lofty ideals, no matter what. Yu Fei knelt down without hesitation, kowtowed and petitioned. Han Shizhong was not far behind either, he also had an innocent heart. Well, I will definitely live up to your loyalty. Lu Feng nodded and took them back to the job transfer hall, through time and space, to the home world. As soon as they landed, the system released a new mission. Ding, the host is invited to go to the Beast Dynasty to complete the unification mission. The mission requirements are: 1. Let the people actively do good, 2. Punish the morally corrupt king. The new mission is actually to go to the Beast Dynasty, the Northern Qi dynasty that is famous in both official and unofficial history. The Northern Qi dynasty was the Gao family during the Northern and Southern dynasties. After the 16 kingdoms of the Eastern Jin dynasty, the world entered a period of separation between the North and the South. Gao Yang was in troubled times. Established the Northern Qi dynasty, which was called the Beast dynasty by later generations. There is no other reason. The dynasty established by Gao Yang was the most obscene, filthy, and shameless dynasty in history. Anyone who knows the history of this dynasty will curse it. The longevity of the dynasty, it lasted 28 years and passed to the throne through a total of 6 emperors. During their reign, tyranny, debauchery, chaos, and royal incest filled the entire history of the dynasty. Some modern scientists once believed that all the emperors of this dynasty were mentally ill. Otherwise, all their behaviors cannot be explained by normal people. During this period, the Han people could only huddle in the southern dynasties. The entire northern dynasties were dominated by northern minorities or nomadic peoples. They successfully invaded the central plains. The southern dynasties did not have enough land area. Half of the northern dynasties is ridiculous. Under such cowardly circumstances, the Han people in the southern dynasties would rather cede territory and pay compensation than concentrate their forces to fight back. Dian Wei, you immediately recruit 50,000 troops and go to the transfer hall to wait for me. Zhao Yun, you personally lead 3,000 red-blooded dragon knights to accompany Dian Wei. Su Chu and Huang Zhong will be my personal guards and lead the guard. Yu Fei and Han Shizhong will you, as the vanguard, will go out with me to restore the glory of the Han people in the southern and northern dynasties. Anyway, now that he has decided on the dynasty he is going to, Lu Feng immediately made arrangements for the relevant matters. Because the dynasty he is going to this time is in chaos during the war and has a large number of people. If he cannot bring more people with him, it will be difficult to take advantage of the people in this world. Unify the world. During the northern and southern periods, the population was sparse, with no more than 20,000 people fighting each time. The neighboring countries were even sparser, and there was almost no room for conscription. If Lu Feng wanted to unify the world, he could only rely on his own people. I am waiting for my order. Several generals knelt down to accept the order with great momentum. Yu Fei and Han Shizhong were even more eager to try. They didn't expect that they would have the opportunity to show off their talents so soon. Who should this counselor lead? The military general has decided on the candidate, but who should be chosen as the counselor? One of the conditions for completing the task is that the people must be positive, work together to guide the people, and have the ability to govern the world. It seems that anyone can be selected, but it is useless to lead anyone. What a headache! 3 Kingdoms, I have a job transfer palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 676. For a moment, Lu Feng felt that it was not entirely a good thing that there were too many civil servants and generals around him. Fortunately, he was not a person with difficulty in making choices. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to decide who to go with. According to the decree, Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui will go out with me on the expedition. Fang Mutyudu, this is a famous golden partner. With the two of them, it shouldn't be difficult to make the people actively do good. These two people do have outstanding political talents and are very good at dealing with others. Decisive, with them, you can trust them with internal affairs. I am waiting to receive the order. Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui didn't talk nonsense. After receiving the order, they immediately went to the transfer hall. Wenqing's generals were all waiting in the store for their majesty to arrive. Lu Feng didn't talk nonsense to them, even at the swearing-in ceremony before leaving. It has not been opened. His subordinates are strong men with certain strength and do not need those fancy things. The only thing Lu Feng is thinking about now is where will the landing time and place be? The system did not inform him of the appearance period. Which emperor of the northern Qi dynasty was in power? If he landed when the founding emperor Gao Yang was still alive, it would reduce a lot of trouble. After all, the northern Qi dynasty had just been established at that time and the harm to the people had not yet begun. It would also make it easier for him to found the country. Those people would not be harmed by the northern Qi emperor. In the northern Qi dynasty, Gao Zhan was discussing with his forwards in the military camp to deal with the northern Wei dynasty. The Northern Wei dynasty was the longest dynasty. Although the emperors of this dynasty were also very crazy, most of them the emperor also knew what it means to rule through experience. The Northern Wei dynasty never forgot its dream of unifying the world, and there were two dynasties next door to them, one was the Northern Qi and the other was the Northern Zhou, so these three dynasties fought the most fiercely over the years. Prince Qi, between us and the military camp of the Northern Zhou dynasty, a large number of people suddenly appeared in a forest. We don't Euro trademark T know whose reinforcements they are. How should we respond? The scouts who were spying on the military situation at the front ran into the military camp in a panic. Gao Zhan and the forward generals looked back at the scouts, feeling baffled. There was only a forest between their camp and the Northern Zhou camp, and that forest was so complicated that even soldiers don't dare to dabble in it easily to avoid encountering wild beasts and being devoured. How could someone suddenly appear in there? Is there any error in the information? Gao Zhan asked the scout carefully. Report to the prince, the information is correct, it is determined to be a large team, and at least 50,000 people can be identified by their voices. The scout was sweating profusely. When the two armies were fighting, such a large army suddenly appeared. No matter which side it was, they had to be frightened for several days. What? There is actually a team of at least 50,000 people lurking in that forest? I don't Euro trademark T believe people in the Northern Zhou dynasty had such ambitions. Could it be the Northern Wei dynasty? Gao Zhan squinted his eyes and began to think about the combat effectiveness of which side this team might belong to. After all, depending on the people it belongs to, the style of this team will also become different. The Northern Zhou dynasty is now dominated by the wise monarch and the young emperor of the Northern Wei dynasty. The leadership is completely different, which will also affect the popularity of the people below. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 677. Although the powerful Northern Wei dynasty lasted for 148 years, the reigning emperors were short-lived, and young emperors succeeded to the throne in many cases. Although the lifespan of the Northern Zhou dynasty was not as good as that of the Northern Wei dynasty, every generation of kings was considered wise. In the Northern Qi dynasty, which is closest to the Northern Zhou dynasty, people would flee to the Northern Zhou dynasty every day to live there. From this we can see that the Northern Zhou dynasty was what the people wanted. Unfortunately, most of the emperors of the Northern Zhou dynasty died suddenly, and they still failed to realize their dynasty's dream of unifying the world. In the forest, Lu Feng took a few mouthfuls and spat out the leaves floating down from his mouth. The forest was full of green and lush branches and leaves. Many plants were floating around, and they would be poured into his mouth accidentally. The army behind them still stood uniformly. As long as there was no order from the general, they would never move. They were strictly disciplined and invincible in the world. These are Lu Feng's 50,000 elite soldiers and the Red Blood Dragon riders. It's just that the task of unifying the world this time is too heavy. The 50,000 elite soldiers are his main combat force when he goes out to fight. The red-blooded dragon knights serve as guards and will not be dispatched easily. Your Majesty, the geographical location where we are now is very bad, and there are other forces around us. Should we camp somewhere else? Dian Wei was keenly aware that the place he was in was a surrounded forest basin, which was not conducive to the battle plan and Lu Feng's request for orders. Okay, Dian Wei, Yu Fei, and Han Shizhong will immediately lead the army to find a new camp upon hearing the order and enter combat status at any time. Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui will follow me, and Zhao Zilong will lead the Red Blood Dragon cavalry to escort me out of here. In matters like war, geographical location is a very important factor. Lu Feng has no reason to refuse Dian Wei's request. He can also use this opportunity to rush out of the forest to give other forces around him a show of strength. But Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui, they are both civil servants, and they only have a little boxing and kicking skills. The two of them must follow him and be protected by Zhao Yun. Otherwise, no one in the rebel army will protect these two counselors, and they will definitely be killed. I obey the order. Dian Wei and others confirmed the decree and immediately began to take action. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the 50,000 elite soldiers, and they shouted in unison, so that everyone around them could clearly hear that they were coming. The Red Blood Dragon Rider was calm and low-key, just like the unsuspicious mountain guards in the world. They ensure that no living thing can enter or leave this range. Just looking at it from a distance is very imposing and difficult for people to approach. The shouts of 50,000 elite soldiers are also scared the marshal of the northern Zhou dynasty. How is this going? Where are the scouts? Where have all the people died? Marshal Zhu Chuhe scolded angrily. He had already arranged for his scouts to inquire about the military situation at the front line, but now there is such a big noise in the forest, and no one has responded to him. He was so angry that he pulled out his sword on the spot, wishing he could do it now. Just chop off the waiter's head. Reporting back to the marshal, more than a dozen scouts had been killed on the front line. The army that came from nowhere moved very fast and killed all of our people in just one encounter. There were still people alive in the forward camp who ran back in a panic. Facing the marshal's questioning, they were also very helpless. It was not that they didn't work hard, but that the opponent was too strong and there was no condition for a fight. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 678. Zhu Chuhe slapped the man in the face angrily, and then kicked him away. What are you talking about? The ones I brought out this time are all elites. There is absolutely no way that they are not capable of fighting the opponent. I don't believe that Northern Qi still has such a powerful army. Marshal Zhu thinks he knows Baiki very well. He knows very well who Baiki has as generals and who as forwards. He doesn't believe that it was the other party's people who beat one of them like this. Marshal, you are unjust. The people who beat us like this time are not from the Northern Qi dynasty. Their numbers have the character Lu hanging on them. There is no general named Lu in the Northern Qi dynasty and the Northern Wei dynasty. I don't know who this team belongs to. This poor forward battalion soldier is miserable. He didn't lie. This time the team does have such strength, but it's just that I can't tell which force it belongs to. Ridiculous. In my opinion, this is just an excuse for you to escape. All the soldiers followed me to find out. Zhu Chuhe summoned all the soldiers around him to ride to the battlefield together. By the time they dared to go near the forest, 50,000 elite soldiers had already scattered their troops under the iron hooves of the rebel army, leaving not even a single person alive. Ah! My good men from the Northern Zhou dynasty were defeated like this. I don't a Euro trademark T care who you are? If I don't a Euro trademark T avenge this revenge, I will never return to the Northern Zhou dynasty. Zhu Chuhe yelled crazily. The people he brought were too late to save people. The troops on the front line used to defend the Northern Wei and Northern Qi had completely collapsed. The less than 10,000 cavalry he brought with him, during the Three Kingdoms War, it was just a drop in the bucket. Before he could figure out who the opponent was, more than half of his own legion was already dead or wounded. But he never expected that the charge of 50,000 elite soldiers was just the beginning. The Red Blood Dragon riders guarded Lu Feng and others. Slowly walking out of the forest was the real climax of the battle. Gao Zhan led his men to the other end of the forest, and happened to meet Zhu Chuhe's eyes. The two glanced at each other and knew that they were definitely not the others. So strong. Although Gao Zhan is also a criticized emperor, his military ability is indeed better than most other generals from other countries. Perhaps this is what the old people often say, although his character is not good, there will always be a certain aspect. Prominent. Now he suddenly regretted that he should not have ordered his army to ambush in the side. Facing a super powerful force like the Red Blood Dragon Riders, his army might have been devastated the moment it appeared. But now it is too late to give the order to retreat. The army ambushing on the side has already rushed out at this moment, like a sharp knife, trying to penetrate into the heart of the enemy. The Red Blood Dragon Rider calmly adjusted the direction of the army. Forming a square formation, a shield as firm as a mountain was formed immediately. The northern Qi army with long spears in their hands was like an egg hit on a stone, with no bones left. Blood filled the air and the ground, and there were countless northern Qi army soldiers. The fresh blood and powerful sprint made them unable to stop, and they collided with the shield formed by the Red Blood Dragon Rider with huge inertia. With the sound of collision, it exploded like a bomb, but the Red Blood Dragon Rider remained. He stood firm and did not even take a step back. Three Kingdoms, I have a job transfer palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 679. Lu Feng and Fang Xianling were in the middle, and Du Ruhui was as steady as a mountain. He didn't care about what happened outside. It was just that the armies of other forces launched an attack on his own people. Only then did he realize that he was in trouble. Within one's capabilities. Your Majesty, the world we live in now is full of wars and chaos, and there are many countries. They all work on their own, and no one is convinced by anyone. It is easy to provoke a war between them, so we might as well reap the benefits. In the luxurious carriage, Fang Xianling had already begun to analyze what he should do if he wanted to dominate the world based on the information Lu Feng gave him about this era. As expected of him, he had already started planning as soon as he got the relevant information. Du Ruhui also nodded beside him, obviously agreeing with Fang Xianling's strategy. You can let the enemy consume a lot of power without consuming your own strength, and then when the enemy's consumption is over, you can take advantage of it. Enter and swallow the enemy effortlessly. In this era, there are indeed many people who want to unify the world, and there are a large number of Han people in the Southern Dynasty. Our first goal now is to establish power in the Northern Dynasty, and then transfer the Southern Dynasty to prioritize unification. Lu Feng had a plan in mind. Since the Southern dynasties were dominated by the Han people, it would be better to give priority to unifying the Southern dynasties and bringing all the Han people together, and then carry out a crusade against the nomads in the Northern dynasties. In this multinational dynasty, the Southern and Northern dynasties, the racial discrimination is very obvious. Nowadays, the nomadic people with strong military strength do not pay attention to the Han people at all. All the Han people are squeezed into a small area in the Southern dynasties, and they even think that the country composed of Han people is too weak and is not as good as kill your strong enemies first, and then conquer the weak ones. This is also the spirit that has been passed down by the nomads. When facing strong enemies, if you don't fight them, other weak ones will not obey you. But it is precisely because of their only those who are stronger than themselves will give the Han people a chance to breathe, wait for Lu Feng's arrival, and counter-attack in one fell swoop. The troops that quickly broke through the two fronts quickly received the order, continued to march, and quickly rushed to the Southern dynasty only. Gao Zhan and Zhu Chuhe, who had lost their elites, were left messy in the wind. Neither of them knew how to explain themselves to His Majesty the Emperor after returning home. Gao Zhan may have some excuses, after all, it suits him to go back. My brother confessed that Zhu Chuhe was a pure civilian, and he could achieve the position of marshal all because of his own ability. But now that he has suffered such a huge defeat and lost so many men, after returning home, the top officials in the country, the dignitaries, would never let him go. But at this moment, the Northern Wei dynasty was also in a state of confusion. They hadn't done anything yet, and the two armies facing them had already suffered heavy losses. This time, they were fighting over the chassis. It was over before it even started. In less than 3 days, the information about Lu Feng's army spread throughout the Northern and Southern dynasties. Everyone knew that during the melee between the three dynasties, an extremely powerful army appeared, killing two of them. The men and horses killed everyone without leaving a single piece of armor behind. When Lu Feng led his people to the southern dynasty, all the emperors of the southern dynasty surrendered collectively without saying anything. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 680. After Lu Feng came to the southern dynasty, he muddle-headedly accepted the kneeling of all the emperors. The entire southern dynasty was easily unified by him. He asked people to find out the reason. It turned out that these emperors of the southern dynasty surrendered voluntarily because they were afraid of his fighting power. The combat effectiveness of several dynasties in the southern dynasty combined was not as good as that of a single dynasty in the northern dynasty, so when they knew that the three dynasties were fighting in a melee, Lu Feng had no pressure to fight against the three dynasties on his own, and they immediately gave up. Since you can't defeat it yourself, then don't cause trouble for others and just silently hand over your country. Lu Feng also said that there was no way. These people were just weak, unable to hold up the wall, and he did not grant them thrones. Instead, he captured them all and beheaded them at the entrance of the market. When the people heard that their dog emperor, who usually fed them fish and meat, was going to die, they were very excited and couldn't wait to come to the market entrance to watch the excitement. These emperors of the southern dynasties never imagined that even though they surrendered voluntarily, they would still not be able to escape the fate of being killed. Moreover, although the common people under their command all looked very simple, they actually hated these emperors to their core. These emperors of the southern dynasties were cowardly and incompetent and wanted to exploit the people. They should have died long ago. Lu Feng didn't think it was necessary to keep this garbage. It was better to deal with it once and for all to win the hearts and minds of the people. Du Ruhuai and Fang Xianling also supported Lu Feng's decision with both hands. They even wrote the confessions of these people in person at the vegetable market. The soldiers were also asked to read aloud the confessions in the vegetable market about the culpability of these emperors, so that everyone in the world could know why these emperors died. In this way, all the faults, whether openly or secretly, were all because of these emperors, and Lu Feng was like a savior, saving these people and winning the reputation of a wise emperor. This set of tricks was even better than some public relations teams. Lu Feng couldn't help but give a thumbs up to these two civil servants. As expected, they were able to think of so many rhetoric in such a short period of time, and they even counted the emperors. Sin. Organized and convincing. After killing these people, the entire southern dynasty was unified. Lu Feng quickly asked Fang Xianling and Du Ruhuai to start to use their skills in internal affairs. The two of them were more than enough to govern the southern dynasty. For the sake of internal affairs, he did not go to the northern dynasty to start a war for the time being. He just asked people to write a letter of war and told those in the northern dynasty that nothing would happen if they surrendered honestly. And he himself had the intention to go to Hozhou. Let Zhao Yun and the Red Blood Dragon Rider follow him. Your Majesty, I wonder why you are interested in this small country. Can I know the reason for this? On the way to Hozhou, Zhao Yun didn't think about the need to go there in person in a country as small as Hozhou. This country is indeed small and disgusting, but what I like is not this country, but a brave and invincible general in this country named Ran Min. He is the savior of the Han people. Although Zhao Yun didn't know, Lu Feng knew in his heart that there was a man who killed barbarians in this country and was called the savior of the Han people, that is, Ran Min. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 681. Ran Min, whose name was Shi Min at first, was the adopted grandson of Emperor Shihu of the later Zhao dynasty. Although she was only an adopted grandson in name, Shihu treated her more affectionately than his own grandson. He is a general who is decisive, sharp, and as brave as a tiger. At that time, many people were unconvinced and thought that he was able to hold important positions in the army only because of the emperor's favor. However, after joining the army, he repeatedly defeated the enemy with military exploits and relied on his own military exploits to rise from a ranger general to a marquis. At that time, no one could see that he actually had his own ambitions, but he was very tolerant, saying nothing, not exposing anything, and finally fulfilled his ultimate ambition. After the death of Emperor Shihu of Hozhou, he established the most useless Prince Shi Jian as emperor. Shi Jian was a useless emperor, and gradually all the rights were controlled by Ran Min. When Shihu was alive, all the power in the country was in his hands. Although Ran Min was a very powerful general, he could never fight against Shihu. It wasn't until Shihu died that he really made a difference. At the critical moment when a large number of barbarians invaded the central plains, he vowed to kill the barbarians and destroy the stones. That is to say, kill all those who bully the Han people, and also kill the entire Shi family. There is no normal person in the Shi family. Shihu is a lustful ghost who not only kills countless people, but also orders all girls in the country who are over 12 years old to be a member of his harem and are not allowed to marry. Even debauchery and cruelty are not enough to describe him as a tyrant. Shihu is a tyrant who can even kill his own blood with his own hands. Therefore, all his sons hated him. After Shihu's death, civil strife continued in Hozhou due to many princes competing for the throne, which gave Ran Min an opportunity. In the end, Ran Min destroyed Zhao and established the Ran Wei dynasty, using the power of the whole country to defend the last dignity of the Han people. During the northern and southern dynasties, Ran Min was the only emperor who defended the dignity of the Han people. It is a pity that later generations of experts have considerable objections to this matter. They all believe that Ran Min was too extreme. Anyone who is not a Han will be killed by him. Experts believe that Ran Min is too extreme and cannot be regarded as a positive image, so even some of his image descriptions have always been biased towards the villain. Few people know that such a great general appeared in that chaotic era. This Ran Min is very capable. Since he is so capable, why not let me challenge him to see how much he weighs? Zhao Yun's hands were itchy, and he asked Lu Feng with the attitude of a hero who cherishes heroes. When he meets Ran Min, he must give him a chance to learn from each other. He is not as good as you now. If you want to compete with him, of course you can, but don't hurt him. Lu Feng's words are always orders, and there will be no doubts. I must obey His Majesty's will. Zhao Yun obeyed the order without hesitation. Soon after, the Red Blood Dragon riders came to Hozhou. At this moment, Emperor Shihu of Hozhou was at the end of his power, and his sons each led their own Qing soldiers to confront each other on the top of the city wall. It seems like a lot of things are squeezed together and not in the normal chronological order. Who is that person underneath? You dare to bring so many people here? Are you going to rebel? Shi Fan looked at Zhao Yun at the front with vigilance. 3 Kingdoms, I have a job transfer palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 682. Shi Fan is one of Shihu's sons. Shihu, an old pervert, has been constantly expanding his harem, so he has many sons. This man was very vigilant. He had never seen Zhao Yun before. He thought that his brothers had invited foreign aid, so they led an army that seemed to have strict military discipline. Not to mention him at this time, even other princes also looked over. Ran Min was particularly interested in Zhao Yun. This was the excitement of a strong person who wanted to challenge a deeper level when he saw a strong person. It's a pity that he doesn't know that he has no chance of winning against Zhao Yun now. Who sent you? If no one has come forward yet, what is going on with you guys? Our army will not be polite. Ran Min shouted loudly. Although there are so many princes on the city wall, he actually holds the most military power. Shihu is not dead yet, and he still pretends to be obedient on the surface. Don't be so nervous, we are here to find you and have nothing to do with anyone else. Seeing the soldiers on the city wall standing ready, Lu Feng waved his hand and asked Zhao Yun to deliver the message, telling Ran Min bluntly that they were here for him. Ran Min, you despicable villain, you have secretly connected with other people for a long time. I must report this trick to my father and let him kill you to set the record straight. Shi Fan seemed to have caught Ran Min's hand, and accused Ran Min excitedly. It's too early for ninth brother to say this. General Ran has always been very loyal to us, and he is my father's favorite grandson. How could he betray us? Shi Jian stood timidly behind Ran Min and spoke for him. Although he was very timid, he was also greedy for the throne. Otherwise, he would not have cooperated with Ran Min to snatch the throne. Uncle Nine Emperors, be careful what you say. I have never thought about betraying Grandpa Huang, nor have I ever thought about betraying you. I don't trademark T know the group of people below at all. I don't trademark T know why they are here. Wait until I ask. Ran Min frowned. He didn't know Zhao Yun and Lu Feng at all. Of course, he didn't know why these people came to him. Now in front of so many people, he was greeted by people from other forces. For a moment, he was at the forefront of the limelight, and several princes around him were staring at him with ill intentions. As for his status as a grandson, he was a little embarrassed, so he could only talk to Zhao Yun, hoping to clear his name and not ruin the love he had endured until now. Chess. I don't know you at all, why are you coming to me? If you want to have a fight, I'm here to help. Ran Min firmly broke away from Zhao Yun and told everyone that he was not a spy. In order to show his identity, he even invited Zhao Yun to fight with him. I just heard that General Ran Min is a righteous man, and I have a gap in my heart. He is a brave and resourceful general. I came here to recruit him. As long as General Ran Min is willing to join our army is willing to treat him generously and will never let him down. Zhao Yun politely invited him to join his camp. Since he was Lu Feng's favorite, Zhao Yun certainly didn't hesitate. He looked at Ran Min with the same look he looked at his brother. He was regarded as one of his own just after they met.